Asterisk, the autumn rain had been falling steadily all morning, creating puddles that reflected the warm glow of the streetlights along Fifth Avenue. Margaret wiped down the last table at Rosie's Corner Cafe, her shift nearly over after another long day. At 23, she had been working as a waitress for 2 years now, saving every penny she could while attending night classes at the community college. Asterisk, the cafe wasn't much to look at from the outside, just a small storefront squeezed between a dry cleaner and a bookshop. But inside, it had the kind of warmth that drew people in from the cold. Margaret had grown to love the regulars, the way Mrs. Chen always ordered her coffee with extra cream. And how old Mr. Peterson liked to sit by the window reading his newspaper for hours. Asterisk, as she was preparing to close up, Margaret noticed something unusual. Across the street, huddled against the brick wall of an old building, sat a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old, wearing a cream-colored coat that was too thin for the weather. Her small hands were tucked deep into her pockets, and she was shivering. Asterisk, Margaret paused, her cleaning cloth still in her hand. Where were this child's parents? It was getting dark, and the temperature was dropping. She watched for a few more minutes, hoping to see someone come for the girl. But no one appeared. Asterisk, without thinking twice, Margaret hung up her apron and grabbed her jacket. She had packed a turkey sandwich for her dinner break, but never got round to eating it. The sandwich was still wrapped in brown paper, sitting in her small bag behind the counter. Asterisk, the bell above the cafe door chimed as Margaret stepped out into the cool evening air. She crossed the quiet street, her heart beating a little faster as she approached the child. Up close, she could see that the little girl had been crying. Her cheeks were red from the cold, and her dark hair was damp from the mist. Asterisk, hello there, sweetheart, Margaret said gently, crouching down so she was at the child's eye level. I'm Margaret. What's your name? Asterisk, the little girl looked up with large, uncertain eyes. Emma, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the sound of the rain. Asterisk, Emma. That's a beautiful name, Margaret said with a warm smile. Are you waiting for someone? Asterisk, Emma nodded, pulling her coat tighter round herself. My daddy. He said to wait right here, but that was a long time ago. Asterisk, Margaret's heart ached looking at this child, so small and vulnerable. She remembered being young herself, how the world could feel so big and frightening when you were alone. You must be hungry, she said softly. I have a sandwich here. Would you like to share it with me? Asterisk, Emma's eyes widened slightly, and she nodded eagerly. Margaret unwrapped the sandwich and carefully tore it in half, giving the larger portion to Emma. They sat together on the sidewalk, sharing the simple meal in comfortable silence. Asterisk, this is really good, Emma said between small bites. Thank you, Miss Margaret. Asterisk, you're very welcome. Honey. Margaret watched as some color returned to the child's cheeks. Tell me about your daddy. What does he do? Asterisk, he works a lot, Emma said, swinging her small legs. He has important meetings and talks to people on his phone all the time. Sometimes he forgets things because he's thinking about work. Asterisk, Margaret nodded understandingly. She had seen many hard-working parents over the years, people doing their best to provide for their families. I'm sure he's worried about you right now. Asterisk, just then, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the street. A man in an expensive suit came running toward them, his face etched with panic and relief. Emma, thank God. There you are. Asterisk, the little girl jumped up and ran to him. Daddy, you found me. Asterisk, the man tall, well-dressed, probably in his early 40s, scooped Emma into his arms and held her tight. Margaret could see his hands shaking slightly as he checked to make sure his daughter was okay. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The meeting ran so late, and then there was traffic. I should have called Mrs. Patterson to pick you up from school. It's okay. Daddy, Emma said, patting his cheek with her small hand. Miss Margaret gave me half of her sandwich and kept me company. For the first time. The man seemed to notice Margaret. She had stood up and was gathering her things, preparing to leave quietly. Their family moment was private, and she didn't want to intrude. Wait, he called out. Please, don't go. Margaret turned back, seeing the genuine gratitude in his eyes. I'm David, he said, extending his hand while still holding Emma with his other arm. David Morrison, I can't begin to thank you for what you've done. Most people would have just walked by. I'm Margaret, she replied, shaking his hand, and honestly. Anyone would have done the same thing. She's a wonderful little girl. David's eyes glistened with tears. No, not everyone would have. You took care of a stranger's child, shared your own food with her. That's not something you see every day. Margaret felt a warm spread through her chest. She reminded me of myself when I was young. Sometimes we all need someone to sit with. When we're scared. Over the following weeks, David would stop by Rosie's Corner Cafe regularly, always with Emma in tow. Margaret learned that David was indeed a successful businessman. He owned a chain of hotels across the country, but more importantly, she learned that he was a devoted single father who had been struggling to balance his demanding career with raising his daughter since his wife passed away 3 years earlier. I never realized how isolated Emma had become. David confided to Margaret one afternoon while Emma colored at a nearby table. After her mother died, I threw myself into work, thinking that providing financially was enough. But that night, when I found her with you, I saw how much she needed. Simple human kindness. Margaret listened, understanding the weight of his words. She had grown up with a single mother herself, and she remembered how precious those moments of connection had been. What happened next surprised everyone, including Margaret herself. David began to frequent the cafe not just for Emma, but because he genuinely enjoyed talking with Margaret. Their conversations ranged from Emma's school activities to Margaret's dreams of becoming a teacher. There was an easy comfort between them, built on the foundation of that first act of kindness. One evening, as Margaret was finishing her shift, David approached her with an envelope. What's this? She asked, looking at him curiously. A small token of appreciation, he said. You've given Emma and me something invaluable. You've shown us what genuine caring looks like. Inside the envelope was a check for $10,000 and a letter offering to pay for Margaret's remaining college expenses.
«Звездочка, Варя», — сказала Елена, когда они встретились, — «мы с мужем много говорили о вас. О том, как вы относились к маме в последние месяцы ее жизни. И мы решили. Хотели бы предложить вам работу в нашей фирме в областном центре. Мы занимаемся торговлей, нужен человек, который умеет работать с людьми». Звездочка Варя была удивлена неожиданным предложением. «Звездочка, зарплата будет в 3 раза больше, чем здесь», — продолжала Елена. «Служебная квартира, полный соцпакет. Мы очень нуждаемся в таких людях, как вы, Звездочка, но почему именно я?» — спросила Варя. «Ведь у вас наверняка много знакомых, Звездочка». «Потому что», — тихо ответила Елена, — «вы единственная, кто смог простить больного, напуганного человека. Кто смог увидеть за болезнью живую душу. Такие люди на вес золота». Звездочка Варя долго размышляла над предложением. Конечно, новая работа означала лучшую жизнь, больше возможностей. Но и расставание с родным городом, с привычной жизнью. Звездочка в итоге она согласилась. Не ради денег, а потому что поняла, Иногда доброта возвращается к нам самым неожиданным образом. Звездочка, в день отъезда к ней пришли коллеги по магазину. Многие соседи. Даже те, кто когда-то косо смотрел и шептался за спиной. «Звездочка, Варенька», — сказала пожилая соседка тетя Клава, — «прости нас, дураков. Мы тогда поверили сплетням, а надо было знать тебя лучше, звездочка». Тетя Клава, улыбнулась Варя, «Да что вы». «Все хорошо, звездочка, не все хорошо», — упрямо возразила старушка. «Мы должны были поддержать тебя тогда, а не шушукаться по углам. Зато теперь знаем, если человек добрый, то он добрый при любых обстоятельствах». Звездочка, уезжая из города, Варя заехала на кладбище. Положила цветы на могилу Анны Петровны и тихо сказала: «Звездочка, спасибо вам, Анна Петровна, за урок. За то, что научили меня не судить слишком строго. И за то, что показали, доброта всегда возвращается, просто не всегда тогда, когда мы этого ждем». Звездочка, теперь Варя живет в большом городе, работает в успешной компании. У нее просторная квартира, хорошая зарплата, интересная работа, звездочка, но главное, она осталась той же Варей. Терпеливой, доброй, готовой помочь. Ее коллеги говорят, что с ней легко работать, потому что она умеет понимать людей. Звездочка, а в свободное время Варя ездит в дом престарелых, читает старикам книги. Она знает, одиночество — страшная болезнь, и лекарство от нее простое. Просто быть рядом. Просто слушать. Просто не оставлять человека один на один с его болью. Звездочка, иногда, глядя в окно своей новой квартиры на огни большого города, Варя думает о том дне, когда ее заковали в наручники. О том унижении, о тех косых взглядах. И понимает, все это было не зря. Звездочка, потому что именно тогда она узнала, на что способна. Узнала, что может простить даже несправедливость. Что может увидеть за злым поступком больную душу. Что может ответить добротой на боль. Звездочка, и самое важное, она поняла, доброта никогда не пропадает зря. Она обязательно возвращается. Может быть, не сразу, может быть, не так, как мы ожидаем. Но она всегда возвращается, звездочка, потому что доброта — это не слабость. Это сила. Сила, которая способна изменить мир. По одному человеку. По одному поступку. По одному акту прощения и понимания. Звездочка, и когда Варя засыпает в своей новой кровати, в своей новой жизни, которая началась благодаря доброте, она улыбается. Потому что знает, завтра будет новый день. Новая возможность быть доброй. Новый шанс сделать мир чуточку лучше. Звездочка, а где-то далеко, в маленьком провинциальном городке, люди до сих пор помнят девушку Варю и рассказывают своим детям историю о том, как доброта победила несправедливость. Как прощение оказалось сильнее обиды. И как одна простая девушка показала всем, настоящая красота человека не в лице и не в одежде, а в способности оставаться человеком даже тогда, когда весь мир против тебя. Звездочка — это история о Варе. О доброте, которая вернулась. И о том, что в нашем мире, несмотря ни на что, все еще есть место для чуда. Чудо человеческого сердца, способного прощать и любить.